Sebastian Vettel might come back to racing cars, but it looks like Formula One will have to wait while he tries something new in his job. He always wanted to race in the 24-hour Le Mans race, and now it seems like the racing gods are giving him a chance. But is this practice for something bigger to happen? Is Vettel keeping himself ready to come back to Formula One? The four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel surprised everyone when he decided quit at the end of the 2022 season while driving for Aston Martin team. But it seemed like the right choice because the team was having trouble getting points. And there was no reason for him to fight in the middle or bottom group of drivers. But ever since he quit, Vettel has left the door open to maybe come back if things work out right. This time it looks like he might try something else first before he really decides to come back to Formula One. For starters, there's an empty spot at Porsche for the 2025 Le Mans race. And the German team has talked about how this could happen because they have an empty seat to fill. When talking about it, the factory boss of Porsche and the Urs Curator talked about the Porsche Penske hypercar entry for next year's Le Mans race. He said, "We are missing one driver, that's just math. We have to think about it. Obviously, when we decided to join Le Mans in 2025, that's something we are thinking about, but we don't have a name yet. I am not saying no to Vettel. Sebastian and Porsche are friends, and they talk to each other. I can't say no right now, but it's not decided yet. Obviously, he would be the third driver here. While there's no promise that Vettel will be the driver for Porsche in their Le Mans adventure, there have been some clues that the 37-year-old has been thinking about coming back to full-time racing, because life outside of Formula One can get pretty boring. This has been told to him by drivers who have taken a similar path like Vettel, like Raikkonen. If it's not for the Le Mans race, Vettel could very well join the World Endurance Championship to keep himself sharp if a possible seat opens up in Formula One. Even though these are the main championships that he would race in at this point in his career, it's no secret that the goal is to return to Formula One if possible and make a story like his hero Michael Schumacher, who helped make Mercedes better before they went on to race with Hamilton and win many championships. Either way, the situation is now starting to get very interesting because while Vettel was connected with a possible return to F1 with Audi, since Mattia Binotto had good thoughts about the four-time world champion, it didn't actually happen. So, if he wants to return, he would have to wait for an open spot that is very unlikely to come before 2026. When talking about a possible comeback earlier this year, Vettel said, "It was a very hard decision to quit. It still hurts. I think it's better now after 1.5 years away, but I think I'm very much okay with it and enjoying my new life. There's lots of things that I miss. There's also things that I don't miss, so it's always giving up some things to get others." Formula One these days is very, very intense. You look at the schedule, the number of races. I think it's not just something you feel as a driver. I think you're probably lucky, really, because there are lots of other people you meet, mechanics, engineers, and media. So it was a hard choice when I made it. I was thinking about coming back, and I knew beforehand that I would be thinking about it, but in the end, nothing has changed. I'm still happy with my decision. Obviously, there are many young drivers that are now excited to prove themselves and are ready to show the world that the future is now, but you cannot make a team better based on their raw talent and speed alone. You need experience from someone who knows how the car should act and what is missing, which is something that a couple of teams on the grid would be very happy to have right now. The era from 2026 onwards will be brand new to everyone and we might as well see top teams having trouble understanding it, especially the ones who aren't particularly known for building reliable engines. The 50-50th split between the electric power and the gas engine of the car is now a huge challenge to balance the massive battery power with gas engines to make it work exactly as planned. Of course, there is a huge question about whether or not Vettel would want to return to the sport at all, because if we're going to talk about a project team, he had the chance to do that with Aston Martin. I know the first thought, the favoritism there didn't let him be as free as he would have wanted, and his ideas would have had to go through many filters before it got to the right people. But if we're going to look at what the Silverstone-based team did right now with bringing in top-notch minds from other teams, that mission might get a very fresh start. With Alonso close to retiring and Lance very unlikely to be fired from the team, ultimately, Aston Martin would need a very experienced driver just like Audi hired with Hülkenberg to bring the car to the best working condition with the massive feedback that would be given from this type of driver. Yes, the goal is to bring Newey on board, and with Honda joining forces with Aston Martin from 2026 onwards, it would be really silly not to think that they won't push for Tsunoda to make a debut with the green car, which is what puts Vettel in a difficult situation when it comes to making an awkward reunion with Aston Martin. A very interesting situation has been put out by Flavio Briatore, who is known to be a very close friend to Vettel, and when talking about a comeback of the four-time world champion, one of the most controversial figures in the sport has advised him to do what we don't want to see, him staying retired. According to Flavio, there is no point in Vettel coming back from retirement after winning 4 championships with Red Bull and being one of the most powerful drivers in his time. While the time with Ferrari can be called a failure because he didn't win a championship in the 6 seasons he spent there, even though he was close in 2017 and 2018, that's something to remember in the old days with his buddies who are currently racing Hamilton and even Alonso. They might be a very good example of how you can still make it work at that age, though, because truth be told, Vettel isn't really that old of a driver. He's only 37 years old and is younger than Hamilton, but the amazing fact is that he is 6 years younger than Alonso, which is a huge difference if you're going to think about a possible comeback. Of course, the qualities that Vettel will be offering are much greater compared to the other drivers on the grid because, while he might be a bit rusty at first, we can't forget that he's won 4 championships and has 51 wins in his career in times when they went on much fewer tracks to race. The only challenge that he might have is to get used to the modern era cars, something that Hamilton has been criticized by some of the F1 experts as being too old to get used to the modern style of the 2022 cars, as they will get even more complicated from 2026 onwards. With all this in mind, a situation in which we're going to see Vettel race in the sport is very unlikely to happen in the next year or so. But don't be mistaken, a driver like Hülkenberg has sat out 3 years on the bench before finding his seat at Haas and now being the leading driver in Audi's new project. Drivers like Alonso and Raikkonen have returned to the sport with a bit more success compared to some other comebacks that ended up with huge disappointments. So with all this in mind, do you think that Vettel has what it takes to be a Formula 1 driver? And more importantly, which team do you think would be the smartest one to pick him? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in the latest development of events between Bottas and Mercedes, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.